Hi, this is Alina, and you're listening to Your PharmD Bestie. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Your PharmD Bestie. This is episode 5. Thank you for joining me today. Today's episode, I'm going to go over the whole process of applying for residency and some tips and tricks to get you on your way and be an outstanding candidate. So we'll get started. Brief recap of the last episode. Oh my gosh, it feels like it was so long ago. We had 2 guests who came to do a Q&A about their pharmacy school experience. We went over some of the most difficult subjects that we found or favorite subjects that we had during pharmacy school, also best memories during pharmacy school in the more social aspects. So if you're curious about our experiences in pharmacy school, please go check out that episode and you can join us back here for episode 5, where I will be going over, once again, preparing for residency applications and interviews. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, things that you want to learn more about, feel free to drop it into our DMs and on our social media pages. We do read those and collect any questions that y'all may have so we can answer them during our podcast. All right, so I will first start off by sharing my screen. So applications for residency generally open, this year they opened early November. You will get notifications if you sign up for it on when PhORCAS opens, but this is the portal where you apply for residency. When you first create your account, the actual page that pops up is this, where you get to search and choose programs that you're interested in applying for. So for me, and this will be actually like real life scenario. Okay, that did not work. I'm interested in applying for his PhO residencies or HS PhO residencies. So that's the health systems, pharmacy and leadership residency, specifically in California, let's just say. And because I have experience with Sacramento, it's not showing any programs right now, but it will generally pop up with the one that you're interested in. So UC Davis, and it would show up and you just add it to your program. That will then show down here in your program materials. I think this is my old PhORCAS account, so that's why nothing's like popping up. But generally, like if you were to log in as a new registered applicant, this would be what it shows up with, and then you have to fill in your information for what you're applying for, where you graduated from, when you graduated, etc. Let's say like I save and continue. There's a release statement granting PhORCAS the ability to release your name and contact information to the programs that you're interested in applying to. And just a note, when you when you add programs, even if you don't end up submitting the application, the program knows that you have added them to your list. Just an FYI, and they can see your application. Biographic information. So this is generally like very easy to fill out. You should be able to get this done within like the first 20 minutes of starting the application. So the easy part, it's like kind of what you fill out, colleges attended. And the important thing here is to figure out if the institution you're interested in applying to requires transcripts from your college and pharmacy school. So in general, it might not list under the program requirements, but most of the programs I've seen in the past do require a transcript for undergrad. So I would just request one from both your pharmacy school and your undergrad. Just be prepared to do that. And I would actually get that done as soon as possible because sometimes it takes longer for them to ship the transcripts to PhORCAS. This is the page where once you request for the transcript to be sent, it'll show up here as ordered and then received once PhORCAS actually receives it from your institution or from whatever third-party group that you're requesting the transcript from. So yeah, that's like the first part. First part was the personal information, easy. Second part, colleges attended, additional pharmacy school information. This is like if you had a GPA for pharmacy school. Mine was pass, no pass, so this wasn't really necessary. Click no, and then there's more questions for you to answer. This part also relatively easy to fill out and pretty quick. The only daunting aspect is getting the transcript prepared and making sure that everything is good on that side. But PhORCAS has really great service. You can always reach out through their chat or even through email to get help. And if you're attending any of the pharmacy conferences, they usually have sessions to go over tips and tricks for navigating PhORCAS. So I would recommend attending those and also reach out to your upperclassmen who have gone through this process to get their help. I'm sure things have changed a bit through the past year with the online portal, but nevertheless, they've gone through it. So they always have good tips for you to more easily navigate through this process. Now we go into the supporting information page. So the first thing that pops up is achievements. And achievements, if you're confused on what is considered an achievement, I first went through to pretend I was adding an achievement, and I realized that they have types of achievements. So if you've had any scholarships, publications, presentations, and awards, those would all be considered achievements. You fill out the rest of the information here, name of the achievement or scholarship as an example, name of presenting organization, issue date, and a brief description of what it was for and why you got it. Oops, sorry, I can't save. It's also easier to go through this process if you already have a CV that is pretty much done, because then most of the time you can just copy and paste from your CV for these specific sections. And it aligns pretty well too to how PhORCAS has their portal set up. After you're done adding achievements, you can say that you're finished. There will be a button that pops up to say that you're done adding achievements. You can press that. Don't worry, before you actually submit the application, if you realize that you're missing something, you can still go back to add more. But do note that once you submit that first program application, then you can't change any of these personal information, academic history, and supporting information. Experiences. So again, what entails experiences? You can go to the applicant help center to look at their examples, but I like to go to add experience just to see what it looks like. And then I see that there's some subtypes. So leadership experience, if you were president or part of a board of some pharmacy organization during school, if you were in an internship, if you did volunteer work, community service, and pharmacy work experience, those all count as experience types. I would also argue that if you had a job that was pharmacy unrelated and you were committed for a pretty long time to that position, maybe it was because you needed that extra income, I would also include it under experience type. It would just not be pharmacy work experience. So once you figure out what subtype your experience belongs under, then this pops up. So again, if you have the CV ready, you can just copy and paste title of the experience. Were you president of an organization? Is it current? So if you're still in pharmacy school and you're still in this position, then yes, it is current. add the start and the end date, and then average weekly hours, give your best estimate, and it calculates it at the end based off of the number of weeks that you held the position for. Status, full-time, part-time, temporary, per diem. A lot of the time for leadership organizations, if it's a year-round commitment, I would put it as full-time. If it was less than that, potentially part-time, but it really depends on your job description and how many hours you put in. And then it'll ask you for type of recognition, whether that was compensated, volunteer work, received academic credits, etc. And as you can see, there's more information that is asked for. Supervisor, although it says not indicated, I would still put potentially the name of the advisor of the organization that you were part of, and release authorization that shows that you trust what your advisor is willing to say about you if PhORCAS ever reaches out, or if the program ever reaches out to the advisor or whoever you put in the supervisor spot. So after you're done with that, the same thing, it'll pop up with I'm done adding experiences. You can click that. Here's the note again, once you submit your application, you can't edit previously entered experiences, but you can add new experiences and update ones that are in progress. And then the last part of supporting information is registering for the match. So make sure you read through all of this. This is an old application again, so I can't show what that process looks like, but I will pull up my actual current application so you can see more so what it looks like. This is the part where you'll be taken to another site, external site, to pay for the registration fee, which is $160, non-refundable, and that covers up to 4 programs that you apply to. And any additional program is usually, I believe it's like $35 to $40 of additional fees for any additional programs that you intend to apply for. So once all of this is done, you'll see that there's a check mark. If you go to your dashboard, each of these sections, once completed, will turn green. And that's when you know that, okay, you're on your way to finishing the application. So now let me take a pause and log into my actual filled out application. So I pulled it up. Let me share my screen again. So this is the application that I actually started for this year. I'm only applying to one program, although I did add this one because I was curious what it was about. I did not know that they, on the other side, can see that I added them to the list, but unfortunately I am not applying to this. I just wanted to see how it was different from the PGY 1 and 2 Health System Admin and Leadership / Master's program at UC Davis. So as you can see, I filled out all the information, and so this is what it shows up as once it is completed. I already requested for my academic records, although I don't think they have received it yet. You'll also see that there is a side box that shows up for program evaluations. So once you add a program in, it will ask for program evaluations, in other words, letters of rec. So let me show you what that looks like. I have my letter of recs requested already. And for you, your job will be to figure out how many letters of rec you need and what types of letters of rec you need. So for UC Davis, this specific residency that I'm applying for, it shows here the requirement, at least 3 program evaluations. However, you can submit a maximum of 4. That's dependent on whether you really think you need that fourth letter writer. Some programs honestly may not read the 4th letter that you submit. That's information that I've gathered in the past when I was applying last year. And also be mindful that some programs prefer that the letter writer write about certain things or qualifications that will make you stand out further. So just an FYI. So there's the program evaluation. Essentially, you fill out the information, the contact information for your letter writers. And once you submit that, PhORCAS sends the letter writers a form for them to fill out, and they get to write or choose whether or not they actually want to write a letter for you. Most of the time, I highly recommend that you do ask your letter writer to write an actual letter. So just make sure that that is clear in your request to them. So going back to what else to look out for program specific materials, this is the detail showing like program deadline, when to submit your application by. There's also this page where you upload your CV, your personal statement, and any supplemental material. So PhORCAS will not necessarily show the supplemental material that is required per program. You would have to actually go onto their webpage to figure that out or ask someone who's actually part of the program. And make sure you do that so that you do not miss any additional material that you need to submit. For example, UC Davis has a additional essay prompt that is available on website. So that's why I have something submitted for that. So technically, I feel like I'm pretty much done with my application, and so I could submit it. However, I'm just taking some time to give myself some time to go back and look at the information in case I missed anything. When you're going through the application and you're just working on it day after day, it's easy to miss out on stuff or overlook something. So I recommend like starting it early again. And so you have time from when you have most of the stuff done to the time of the actual deadline to really take your time to edit things and make sure that you have everything. So technically I could submit right now, but I'm not going to just yet. So just checking. It says no transcripts are required, but on the UC Davis website, transcripts are required, which is why I requested some. Let's see if you wanted to add additional programs here. This is what it looks like. So show all the programs that are in the match process, and you just click and add it to your list and then fill out the rest of your dashboard. So honestly, I really like the updated PhORCAS portal format. I think it's very easy to navigate. If you do run into any problems, again, like I can do my best to help. There's also the help center where you can contact someone from PhORCAS for help with the match. Any specific questions about the program, though, I would reach out to the program itself to figure out what you need from them or what they need from you. All right. So as a recap, for this entire process, you can fill out the personal information and academic history pretty relatively fast and easy. I highly recommend getting the transcripts requested as soon as possible and also requesting the letter writers as soon as possible as well, just so you give them enough time to figure out what they need to do for your application. And as a small tip when you're setting a deadline for your letter writers, it's probably better to set it earlier than the actual deadline. I like to set mine a week or two in advance, just so I don't have to worry about scrambling to remind people to submit their documentations or information for the LOR. And in addition, because the deadline this year is early January, a lot of people will probably be traveling or busy with family in December. And so I just like to keep that in mind and not have them have to take time away from them spending time with their loved ones during the holidays. So again, keep that in mind when you're setting the deadlines for your letter writers. Okay. Now, now that's done. Before I end this session or this episode, I also wanted to briefly discuss just balancing the whole application process with rotations and whatever you may be busy with at this time. I remember last year as a student, it was pretty stressful. And when you're on rotations and surrounded by other students who are also going through the application process, it's like a compound effect in a sense that you might not be stressed at first, but once you start feeling other people being stressed, you're going to get stressed. And I remember going through CSHP in mid-year. Every time I came out of the pharmacy conferences, I was even more stressed than before, even if I didn't really have a reason to be. It's just this compounded effect and peer feeling. So it's really important to be mindful of your limits. If you're someone who you will succumb to peer pressure, anxiety, stress, please start the process as soon as you can. Even if the portal hasn't opened yet, you can still get your CV done and completed, edited. You can still get your personal statement done and out of the way because honestly, those are probably the most time-consuming aspects of the application process. Some people write and rewrite and keep rewriting their personal statement, and you need time for that. If you really feel like your personal statement can be improved, but now you're on a time crunch, that's just going to add more stress to you. So I just recommend before the portal even starts, if you're listening as like a first or second year pharmacy student and you're like not even close to applying for residency yet, get a template of a CV and just start adding things that you do during pharmacy school. Because by the time you reach your rotations and you're busy working like a full-time employee every day, you're going to be tired when you get home. You're going to be stressed. You're not going to want to be updating your CV. And so the best tip that I got was to start on that early, which I did. And I did not have to worry about my CV or personal statement. Basically, that first half of my appy year during rotations, while a lot of my classmates were running all over the place trying to get people to read and edit and give feedback for their CV and their personal statement, I was kind of like, okay, like I don't have to worry about that anymore. Like I'm done with it. If I want to get extra pair of eyes from someone like I just met during rotations, like sure, like I can do that, but I have time to, and I'm not worried about having to rewrite the whole thing because I started the process early. So honestly, like I think also given that I was applying to only the PhORCAS residencies last year, it also limited my number of programs that I had to prepare for. So that definitely helped. But just in general, like having the CV and personal statement done, or at least having a draft of it early on, saved me so much time and pressure. When other people were stressed about submitting their application on time. Like I was preparing for interviews. So I think that definitely helped a lot. If you perhaps did procrastinate a bit and now you're working on your CV and your personal statement during rotations, that's also okay. Just be mindful of your health. I know that it's a very stressful time, and I was lucky because my institution that I rotated at, everyone, my preceptors, residents, they were all very understanding of the stress that we were going through. And so if I needed time off to work on my application, I knew that I was able to approach them and ask for that time. And I didn't really have to worry about the repercussions or having to like make up too much time for it. I do know that some of my other classmates from UCSF at that time who rotated at other sites weren't as lucky. And it was just really honestly more added stress. Having to take time off to go to ASHP mid-year. Some of them had to make that time up during holidays. And so I would keep all of that in mind as you're going through the application process. Know that everything will be okay. I want to say from personal experience and from just discussions with classmates post application, it's like that whole post application clarity. We probably didn't have to stress as much as we did during the process. And you could argue that stress makes diamonds. When you're under pressure, you give your best or try to, and maybe that product is like the best thing you can produce, the best application you can give out. But at the end of the day, I stand by that nothing matters more than your health and mental health. So just again, if you can mitigate that stress and pressure, please do at the beginning. And, seek for help and seek for support. It's really special if you have people around you who are going through the same thing, but are still able to offer support and understanding. I know that sometimes it's not easy, especially when everyone's under this stress, but if you can be that person for your friends during that time too, like kudos to you. I'm sure that it means a lot to a lot of people. So that's my tips and tricks for the application process. In terms of interviewing, I will dive into that in another episode. But what I will say is keep in mind that if you are taking time off for pharmacy conferences to figure out which programs you want to apply for, understand that you will be taking time off and probably even more time off to do interviews for your residency programs, depending on how many that you apply to. So that's also something else about applying for programs and how many you should apply for. Valerie from previous episode gave a really great insight about that question. I would say apply for the programs that you really truly see yourself succeeding in and thriving in, because there's no point in spending a year at a program where you won't be happy and you feel like you won't get the most out of it just because you felt like you needed a backup. So just keep that in mind. I will discuss more about this in the next episode. But thank you again for tuning in for this episode. If you have any questions or concerns, curiosities related to what was discussed during this episode, please feel free to reach out. Always encouraging listeners to send in more questions for future episodes. I don't bite. And again, if you enjoyed this episode and you have enjoyed listening to previous episodes, please feel free to subscribe, leave reviews, and follow us on social media. Drop a like. I very much appreciate it. Thank you again and have a great rest of your day. See you next time.